Hello and welcome to the Capital Region Real Estate Today program. I'm Jack Arnicki. With 2018 winding down, looking ahead to 2019, I thought it was time to talk about real estate once again with Anthony Gucciardo. Anthony, good to see you again.
Good to see you again too, Jack.
How's 2018 going so far? Tell us about the market.
2018 was a fantastic year. As you know, we opened up a new office, and our sales will probably finish close to $100 million with almost 375 sales. The market is very stable. There's a shortage of inventory, which is continuing to frustrate buyers and agents in the community because there's not many homes to show buyers out there. So the market overall in 2018 was very strong, and we expect it to continue into 2019.
And you mentioned new office. What impact has that had?
The office has allowed us visibility in the Latham Colony area. You know, Route 7 is a heavily traveled corridor that connects Troy and Schenectady and other parts of the capital region. We've had a lot of walk-in traffic, and we greatly appreciate that. But so many people have supported the business through the years that we wanted to have an actual location in the capital region that was centrally located. So the office has worked out very well. We're not always there because we're out in the field, but it's proven to be beneficial for our agents and our consumers.
Good, good. Now, if you don't market your home, you won't sell it. And
Correct.
If you don't check out your real estate agent, you really, as a seller, are not doing due diligence. Tell us about your marketing strategy.
Well, whether it's an $80,000 house or an $800,000 house, we cater to all markets. So we're not one of those real estate firms, even though we're a boutique firm and we're intimate in a sense that we're not a national brand. We cater to each buyer and seller on an individual basis. So when a seller hires us to sell their property, some houses need staging, some houses need cleaning. So we have, there's 3,000 active agents in the real estate community right now. So we want to go above and beyond for each of our clients and make sure that we really stand out from our competitors. So each house is different in a sense. We do offer staging, like I said, and we offer, whether it be landscaping and snow removal, depending on the commission package you choose. Each house requires different marketing, whether it be newspaper or wherever we choose to put it. So it's really something I need to talk to the consumer about and see their house before I actually explain what we do.
But what's in your head when you're talking about just the broad business of selling homes? Do you have an overall strategy on how to do this that's tweaked per home, or is it?
Each strategy is tweaked per home. Some houses need more marketing because maybe they're on the outskirts of Albany, or some houses are up north, so we focus on North Country advertising. Maybe it's a lake property in Saratoga Lake or Lake George. We focus on downstate advertising. So for me to say that we do this, and that for every property would be incorrect because each house is different, and each house requires a different amount of marketing. Sometimes, being a real estate broker now for 16 years, sometimes I just have a buyer in my back pocket and the house doesn't require any marketing because it comes down to my networking ability or my networking ability with another broker in the area.
You, I know, have an iPhone or a
Correct.
mobile phone, and that's something you didn't have when you started.
No.
Technology has advanced tremendously during the years. Why should a consumer want the most technologically advanced agent?
This is very important. I take my job very seriously, and I've taken it seriously for 16 years, and there's a lot of wonderful real estate agents out there, and then there are some real estate agents that I deal with that are, it's extremely frustrating because they don't have the knowledge of the technology, or they don't buy the proper technology, and it complicates the transaction. It not only complicates the transaction, it often creates a situation that allows for another buyer to come into that house and make an offer. For example, I had an agent this year, very nice lady. She could not figure out how to work the scanner. So over the course of 48 hours of her trying to figure out the scanner, my fiduciary duty to my seller was to continue to show the property. And another offer came in because I never got the contract because she was not equipped properly to send me a contract in a legible format that would allow me to send it to my seller for signature. So after 48 hours of waiting, another offer came in. The offer was super clean. It was legible. The agent's scanner worked. And my seller said, well, we're still waiting for this other agent. Let's just go with this other offer. I said, I agree. So that agent and the lack of technology that she had access to cost her buyer that house. That would frustrate me if I was a buyer and I found out that my agent, who was part-time or doing this for 5 years and didn't buy a $400 scanner, didn't have the technology to get the job done. So when I say hire someone who is technologically advanced and savvy, you want someone who can scan a complete document that's legible. And I know that sounds a little petty, but it happens more often than you would realize.
Yeah, I would imagine
Yeah.
that's now a very important part of the whole transaction
And like I said,
process.
if you're waiting 24, 48 hours, you're not doing your client a service, because other agents are going to keep showing that property.
Yeah, 48 hours can be a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were the #1 agent in 2017 in an industry that's very cutthroat. What's your advice to sellers interviewing a number of agents trying to make a decision?
The National Association of Realtors suggests that you interview between 2 and 3 realtors. And unfortunately, what's happened in this market is you see a lot of people who were in the business back in the heyday when the market was great, in 2005, 2006, they have resurfaced and they have reappeared, and they're essentially looking for a quick dollar because people think they watch TV shows and they see all these types of reality real estate shows, that real estate is an easy business. Real estate is a full-time job. It's 7 days a week. I have my phone on me all the time. I answer my calls as promptly as possible. Some agents don't take the job as serious as some of us do, and that's a reflection on all of us. For example, when I have to call other so-called professionals and tell them that they left 3 lights on and a door wide open, it doesn't make us look bad in the real estate. It doesn't make us look good in the real estate community. It makes us look bad. So it is very cutthroat. It is very competitive. Sellers need to hire someone with experience, someone who has lots of reviews on Google. We have a ton of reviews on Google. We have reviews on Yelp. We have reviews on Zillow. Check out references. Don't just hire someone who is doing it part-time or who has another business they do during the day. I understand everyone has the right to do what they want in our great country, but real estate is often a buyer or seller's biggest investment. And you want someone who is on the up and up and on the ball and is going to communicate efficiently, because it's going to make the transaction much smoother.
After that review, somebody decides Anthony Gucciardo is the person I want to sell a home.
Correct.
If I contact, or if the seller contacts you directly, are you the person that we deal with all the time? I know you have other
Yes.
agents in your
Yes,
fold.
we're actually, as the market stabilizes, some of the agents that I've had have, they're not working to the capacity that I would like. And some of them, unfortunately, whether it be, different time constraints or having family obligations, they haven't dedicated as much time as they should. So to answer your question, if you live in the immediate capital region within a 10 to 15 minute radius of Colony or Saratoga, 90% of the time I will come out to your house if you're looking to sell it. Now, I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of listings, I have a lot of buyers. So if it's a property that I am capable of handling, you will deal with me directly. There are agents that I have in my company who work in areas such as Amsterdam or Johnstown or Glens Falls or parts of Gansevoort, Wilton, stuff like that, areas like that. So most of the time you will deal with me, but I am not a real estate agent that stays in my neighborhood. I go everywhere. I work on a referral basis. So there's a good chance if you call me, you are going to deal with me.
Let's talk about Saratoga County. It's been the hottest county for a long time for real
has.
estate, and yet we've recently had several hundred layoffs at Global Foundries.
Yes.
How does that affect buyers and sellers?
Well, Saratoga County is a strong market, but with the recent Global Foundries layoffs, and you've heard numbers between 400 and 1,000 people being laid off, most of those jobs average between 70 and 150,000 a year, which equates to a house between the price of 250,000 up to almost 450,000. I did have two houses this year that were under contract, and both buyers were laid off from Global Foundries, and that forced them to cancel the contract.
Right.
So it's affecting the market in the sense that there's more inventory for sale because the people who live and work in Saratoga County and work for Global Foundries are now forced to find employment elsewhere, usually out of the area, which puts their house on the market. So you're seeing an increased amount of inventory in the area. A lot of those people bought within the last 5 years, so they also paid a premium. So it's going to come down to the seller that's the most competitive. And that is going to be good for a buyer, but not necessarily good for a seller. So it's definitely affecting the Saratoga market.
Okay, and just the news itself, I would imagine, would have an impact too.
Absolutely,
even
yeah.
if a house is not
Two
directly
things are
involved.
happening. Sellers are staying put because they think the market will get better and they'll get more money when they sell. And then there are people who have to move and they're forced to either accept what they originally paid or take a substantial loss.
Okay. In a contract, there's what's known as an attorney approval period. How does the attorney approval period and multiple offers cause so much friction?
Well, what happens is it goes back to the technology part. When a buyer makes an offer on a property, there is a 3 to 5 day period in which the attorney reviews the contract and has the right to cancel without any reason the offer that came in. So if you made an offer on one of my properties, we're here in Clifton Park in Timberwick right now. If you made an offer on this house for $600,000 or $300,000 and you got me the offer quickly and I get to the attorneys and someone who looked at the house last week decided they want to make an offer, because a lot of times what we do is we go back to everyone who looked and said, hey, we have an offer. If you want to bring something forward, now is the time to do it. Another offer can come in and that seller has the right to cancel the first offer, even if they signed it, as long as it's under the attorney approval clause. I always tell my sellers and buyers, you treat people how you want to be treated. I give them the options, the seller makes the decision. That's how I operate my business. So it causes friction because someone thinks they're getting a house and 2 days later they find out that their offer was bumped for a higher offer or better terms. It does create frustration. It's not anything intentional. It's just part of the real estate business.
That's just the way things work. Yeah.
Yes.
But obviously, people need to know exactly how those things work.
Yep.
What would you tell someone right now who has a listed broker and they are just not happy?
That happens a lot. I probably get 5 to 10 calls a week of sellers who are listed with other brokers. And I've been opinionated on many of my shows. There's a lot of great real estate brokers in the area, but there are some who just don't treat the business seriously or they don't carry themselves in a professional way in the community. So if you're not happy with your broker, I used to discuss things on the phone with sellers, but what's happened in the past is I give my advice, I say what I think, they tell that agent, the agent makes the changes, and then that agent sells the house and makes the sale, and I get nothing. So what I do now is I tell sellers, if you are unhappy, get what's known as an unconditional release for your agent. Most agents don't want to work with someone who doesn't want to work with them. So if you're having a problem with your agent, ask them for an unconditional withdrawal agreement. Most agents will provide it. And then after you have that release to your contract, I will gladly come out to your property and discuss what I can do for you.
But not before that.
Not before that. I really don't like to go out. If we're invited, we're allowed to go. But like I said, I've given my advice before, and then the sellers will tell their agent what to do. And it's like, no one wants to work for free. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you, when you make an offer on a house at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, how soon should the seller respond?
That's a great question. I always tell people that the more time you give people to think, they could change their mind.
Right.
So if I'm representing a seller and I bring them an offer at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to have a general understanding of what that seller is looking for. So if we're listed at 319 and the offer comes in at 300, we're probably going to want to make a counteroffer very quickly of 315 or 312 or whatever the situation may be. This year, most list price to sale price ratios have been within 98%. So an offer that comes in on a listed property at 319 is likely to even be 314 or 315. As a seller, you want to respond very quickly. And as a buyer, when you get that counteroffer, you want to respond very quickly. Again, the quicker you lock up the contract, the more likely you are to run into any issues involving attorney approval clauses or other offers coming in where you could be bumped.
And when you say respond, it isn't just pick up the phone and say, okay, I'll do it. This is actually on paper.
It's a phone call. No, we don't need an official counteroffer on paper.
Really?
I ask my sellers to send me a text. 80% of clients I deal with now are by text message. So, and I have a backup app that saves all the text messages. And we even have apps that record all phone conversations, so we always can keep track of what's happening.
Okay,
which
and
is
that
important.
And there is a record then. It isn't
Absolutely,
just word of mouth.
yes.
Okay. In some areas of the country, a 10% deposit is required. What makes you stand out from your colleagues?
Perfect example. We just talked about Global Foundries.
Right.
I had 2 houses under contract in Saratoga County. The day before the closing, the sellers moved out, packed all their furniture, leased an apartment for a year, hired movers. When I negotiated that offer for those sellers, that agent wanted to give me a $2,000 deposit. Now, $2,000 doesn't even cover the first month's deposit on a new apartment.
Right.
I told the seller I wanted a $10,000. I told the buyer's agent I wanted a $10,000 deposit on behalf of my seller. We got a $10,000 deposit. That's the same house in Saratoga County where the buyer lost his job, which is very unfortunate.
Right.
You know, things do happen. But I protected my sellers as their agent and got them that $10,000 deposit. That $10,000 deposit is going to cover all those expenses they incurred when they moved out and secured a new lease until I sell their property, and they've already received that check. So even if you don't hire me as an agent, folks, get at least a $5,000 deposit, because $1,000 or $2,000, people walk away from that very quickly and think nothing about having wasted your time or changing their mind. I get it, things do happen, but in the state of Florida, everything is 10%. So on a $300,000 house, you're giving $30,000 deposit. You're buying a $200,000 or $300,000 house, you want to show the seller in good faith that you have some skin in the game and you're serious. And minimum to me is $5,000.
Okay. What's your ideal client? What can consumers do to have a more favorable experience?
I think the best thing consumers can do, sellers, buyers, is find an agent you trust and like and can have a rapport with. You know, you want to work with, if you work with someone that you get along with and you think alike, it's not really a job. And that's why for 16 years I've been as successful as I've been, because you can meet someone and immediately say, okay, I'm going to work well with this person, or no, it's probably not a good fit. And sometimes, you know, sometimes agents and sellers and buyers, you relate to different people differently. So
Right.
it's important that you find someone you trust, and you know, you check out testimonials and references, and you have a mutual understanding of what you expect from each other from the beginning of the transaction. For example, if you're showing a house, you want to sell it, you want to make the house available. You know, only showing it one day a week makes my job and other agents' jobs very difficult.
Okay, all right, understood. If you list a house and a buyer comes to you directly, is there a conflict of interest?
Dual agency is very common in New York State, and I've said this on other shows, I'll say it again. We owe the sellers confidentiality and loyalty, and the buyers fair and honest business dealing. So I am essentially a facilitator of a transaction. So my job is to get the seller as much as possible, but there are situations where I have both ends of the transaction and the seller or the buyer gets what they want. It's a give and take. You know, both parties have to feel good about the transaction. But I will say from experience that some of my best and most memorable and pleasurable transactions have been where I've handled both sides of the transaction.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. And then,
Yeah.
that way you keep two people happy as
Yep.
opposed to.
And I know my scanner works, so I don't have any issues with technology, and I know everything is going to be on the up and up.
Okay. How long are houses taking to sell in the current economy?
Right now, in 2018, my average days on the market was 36 days. So if a seller hires me in October or November, I'm hoping to have them an offer within 30 to 60 days of that. People often think the fall, winter is a slower time. Incorrect. Houses sell year-round in upstate New York.
Okay. And how long are houses taking to, well, I already asked you that, but average days on the market. Do you recommend a pre-home inspection?
Sometimes pre-home inspections are good. The biggest issue we've been faced with in the capital region, which is extremely time-consuming for agents, buyers, and sellers, is the evidence of mold being found in attics and basements. So if you can do anything to help expedite the process of the sale of your home, it's hire a licensed mold inspector. You can visit my website or call me. I'll gladly give you a mold inspector that I recommend. But have them check for mold, because you want to get that taken care of and have all the documentation that the house is super clean and no mold issues. Same with radon. You can have a radon test and make sure the levels are below 4.0 PCI. So.
Is there any time when a pre-inspection would not be worthwhile?
If the house needs a ton of issues, I would say sell it as is and not worry about doing a home inspection. But if you're in a typical house that's between 200,000 and 500,000 and you've lived there for 15 years and you're not aware of any major issues, for peace of mind, it might be a good idea to get a pre-home inspection.
Okay.
They run between 300 and 500. And if you hire Gucciardo Real Estate Group, that's probably something we can negotiate with you.
Okay.
So.
And then over and above that, if you need mold remediation
Absolutely.
and so on,
We have access to a great group of people that know how hard we work to keep our clients happy, and they know that I expect the same from them.
Okay. Where is the best place a seller can spend money to get his or her house ready to sell?
It really depends, but curb appeal is important. When you pull up, you immediately get an impression of how is the house going to look. Like you came to this house in Timberwick today. There's mums outside. The landscaping is great.
Right.
So it's better if I explain that to the seller when they call me to look at their property. I'll give them ideas of what to do, but each house is different.
Okay. And as we approach fall and look into winter and actually into spring, you say fall, winter, houses sell, and
Houses sell year round. I mean,
you don't lose money in the winter?
Not necessarily, because I'll tell you something. Some of the lake houses on Saratoga Lake and Lake George, we sell them in the winter because the buyer's mentality is that they think they can get a better deal, which sometimes is true. But sellers also think, well, the house is going to show better in winter or in the summer. But you know what? Somebody who's really busy in the summer might only have time to look in the winter. So houses do sell. We're very fortunate in upstate New York that, I mean, in 16 years of being a real estate broker, I've never gone a month without not selling a property. So it's a very busy and strong market. And ultimately, if you price your property right, regardless of the time of year, it will sell.
Okay. Now you have a lot of listings.
Correct.
What do you tell people who say, I don't know if I want to do business with you. You're way too busy.
Some of my competitors, I think, like to say that I'm a very busy agent or look at my Sunday ad. I have systems in place, and there's a reason why I've maintained the level of consistency that I have for almost 16 years now, and I love what I do, and that's the important thing. Some agents don't necessarily love what they do. They might like certain aspects of the business, the freedom, but I really love what I do, and it's not a job to me. This is like a lifestyle. It's a career that I plan on doing for many years. So I'm never too busy. I always have plenty of time for my clients. And in the world we live in today with communication, it's very easy for me to handle 30 or 40 clients at once because they're not all texting me or calling me at one time.
Right.
So I have systems in place, and if you read the testimonials, you'll see that I communicate very efficiently, and so do my agents.
Okay. Describe what type of house you generally sell.
No house is too big or too small. I sell houses for $80,000. I sell houses for $800,000 or $900,000. This year I've had 4 sales in the $1 million range, which is rare. I normally don't have that many sales because my average sale price is only $260,000. I grew up in a raised ranch in Latham. It was a great house. I sell a lot of raised ranches. I sell a lot of colonials. So I don't consider myself to be the type of broker that only deals with high-end or only deals with, first-time home buyers. I'm a real estate broker. Real estate is real estate. Whether you have any type of house, I'm happy to help you and look at it for you.
All right, but so there isn't really a price point that
There
you
isn't
prefer.
really a price point, no. I don't believe in sticking to a certain price point because I'll tell you something. If I sell someone a $200,000 house, there's a good chance in 10 years they're going to be buying a $400,000 or $500,000 house. So I don't like to alienate myself from any type of market.
Okay.
I work with everybody.
But if you have a $450,000 house and an $80,000 house, same amount of time, same amount of effort?
Pretty much. Sometimes the smaller homes are harder to sell because the people have trouble getting financing and they actually require extra advertising. So yeah, I mean, if someone who's buying a $400,000 house, they've probably been employed for 10 years and they have steady income and they're going to get the loan quickly. As first-time home buyer or somebody who's buying their investment property might not show the income to qualify for that house. So each house is different. Each transaction is different.
What about staging? Do you recommend it? Not recommend it?
Each year I go back and forth on staging. I do think it helps. I think there are certain houses that show better vacant and then certain houses that need some type of staging. At Gucciardo Real Estate Group, we do have a package that includes staging. And if that's something you're looking for, maybe you're going to be getting rid of all your furniture and you want someone to bring furniture in, we can certainly help you with that. So I would like to look at the house before I say, yes, you need staging, or no, you don't. Sometimes I just got to have somebody clean the house up and paint some baseboard moldings and put some fresh mums outside, and that does the trick. It all depends on the market and where the house is.
Is there a price point where staging becomes impractical? As you know, like if we were just talking the $80,000 house, is staging an $80,000 house?
Probably wouldn't stage an $80,000 house unless the seller was willing to pay for that, because the commission wouldn't cover the cost of that. But
right.
Generally, I've been doing staging on houses above $350,000. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of people do have enough of an imagination to forecast or to foresee where they want their furniture, but sometimes we bring that furniture in just to give them an idea.
Okay. What are the hottest areas around here?
Town of Colony, Latham, Loudonville, parts of Saratoga County are extremely hot. We have sold pretty much in every county in 2018. If you price it right, folks, the property will sell. So,
right.
But there's under 250,000 in Latham is extremely popular. I have on average 15 to 20 showings on anything I list under the $250,000 range.
All right. Just a couple of questions that are really not related. What do you do in your free time, if you have any?
Free time. Well, I really love what I do. So I find that that's been a sort of a gift for me, because I'm not really into golfing or doing, certain extracurricular activities that some other people do. So my free time, I'd say I spend a lot of time with my family. We do take vacations and stuff and hang out. I love cars. I'm a car guy. So that's probably it. I do like to do some traveling, but that's primarily what I'm into. I really love what I do. So.
It's mainly the business, which is your leisure
it's not only
too.
that, as I own a lot of property myself, so I'm always doing something related to real estate, because it's really a passion for me.
Okay. Any concluding remarks?
I would like to thank the Capital Region for their continued support. Without all of your support for the past 16 years, there would be no me and no Gucciardo Real Estate Group. So many of you reach out to me, and you stop me in restaurants and the diner or wherever you may see me, and you say that you've watched this program and you've gotten ideas, and I really do appreciate that, and as do my agents and my family. So if you're thinking of buying or selling real estate, we would love to help you. We love keeping you updated on the market, and we sincerely thank you for your continued support. Visit AnthonyGucciardo.com, or you can text me or call me anytime, and I'd be glad to help you.
All right. Anthony, thank you very much. Great chatting with you again. Thank you very much for joining us on Capital Region Real Estate today. I'm Jack Arnicky. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Hi, my name's Diane Keith, and I've been very, very happy with Anthony. He was so responsive for me. He found me the absolute perfect house in a perfect location, and he couldn't have been more cooperative. He offered me many, many names of people who could do jobs that I needed done, movers, electricians, a lot of different things. And I'm a retired math teacher. I lived in my home for 38 years, but it was getting to the point where it was too big for me. And Anthony found me just the absolute perfect ranch to move into.